Today, a very interesting topic and actually something that we get asked a lot. What's the difference between para and code to ICOR? So for those who don't know about para and code, which is unlikely being in the productivity space, para and code are methodologies made by Tiago Forte, and you better know it probably from Building a Second Brain. And there's a lot of comparison going on between ICOR and these methodologies. And that's why we thought we make this episode to clarify things, as there are quite big differences to these things. And what we just keep, before we dive in, something just to keep in mind is not about what's the best methodology. It's about what's the right fit for you. And that's what we will discuss today. How many times did we answer this in our inner circle and they said, yeah, but this is similar to para? Yeah, we went through these things too and tried to apply it in our own lives, right? So there was a reason to come up with our own methodology that, spoiler alert, goes way beyond anything that you know about para or code.
Yes, because I think that we need to start comparing things that make sense. Okay, it's like when people told us, what is better for manage my to-dos? I don't know, Evernote or Todoist? And you say, but what the heck, man? You cannot start comparing these things. You always need to try to compare things that you can compare, because if not, it doesn't make sense. And here it's exactly the same, because people I know that they want 1-0, black, white, good, bad. That's the binary approach of human beings. Okay, but many times it's not possible because you're trying to compare things that have nothing one to the other, have nothing to do one to the other. And this is the case, okay? That's why this is not if this is better and this is worse. And I think that we need to start comparing things that you can compare. For instance, you cannot compare ICOR with para, okay? If you need to make a comparison, could be maybe, and we will also say and explain that it's not possible, but well, code with ICOR, because if you want to compare para with something related to ICOR, it will be to my life concept. Okay, that's where more or less you can start comparing things, because that's the same approach. Okay, we will start describing the differences, and so that people can better know which one fits the best for them, because that's what this is all about. Okay, it's trying to look for something that is really useful for your use case, for the type of work that you deliver, for how you think, for what your real life is. Okay, and here we will explain everything as we believe. At least that's how we delivered ICOR. Okay, because obviously we don't even pay attention to para or code. Okay, we pay attention to many other methodologies, talking about Scrum, Agile, the approach of Gantt, okay, and that approach to project management, because here we will see that one of the main difference between these methodologies is the scope, okay, whereas code is mainly focused in personal knowledge management, ICOR goes beyond, and this is not something that it's good or bad, okay, it's just that it's a different scope, okay, we try to deliver, and well, we don't try, okay? We do, okay? Because it works for us and for many people to deliver how you can build and design a productivity system end to end. That's not the ultimate goal of code or para, okay? Para was designed to create a digital library, okay? How you can organize your digital assets so that you can get advantage of them. But that's it, okay? It's not going to tell you what a priority is, how you organize your to-do, and of course, it will never go to the world of team management, okay? All the world of project management, this is something that para and code is not interested in, okay? And that's why it's impossible trying to organize that. And we have seen people, okay, that want to organize a whole company, for instance, following methodologies like this. And it's really difficult, obviously. You can force the things to the limit, okay? But it's not going to work because it hasn't been developed for that purpose. It's the exact same thing. What we talk about the tools, okay? When we talk about a software tool, you need to know the main purpose, okay? The ultimate goal of that tool. And based on that is how you can better get advantage of that tool. If you force the things, like for instance, to use as a task manager a tool like Evernote because you can write to-dos, well, sooner or later, you will bump into a wall, and those are the things that we need to define. So we can start with Para versus My Life, Tom, if you want.
Yeah, of course.
Go ahead.
That's something we can dive in. I just want to, for the scope, that was a good point, because ICOR is really about systems. I mean, comprehensive systems. So obviously everything can be defined as a system, but ICOR is really the comprehensive system where we say productivity, building a productivity system end to end. And that's what we both suffered from using the scattered methodologies. Again, if you go for the second brain, you maybe look into the GTD, getting things done. And you mentioned already Scrum, and I'm not even getting into Six Sigma and all the things that I went through in corporate as well, where I learned. And it is just these, I don't know, these narrow areas that you try to fix something that never gets the full scope of a productivity system end to end. And that's where Paco and I met and realized we both came to the same conclusion and filled up the missing pieces with our conclusions. And that's the ICOR methodology, where everything comes together. And it's not like that we used Para and Code and GTD and now, added more stuff to it. We just realized it's not working for busy professionals. Something that we really saw over and over again is that these things work well if you don't have volume. And the moment volume comes into play, it shows that a system is not really built as a system that is scalable. So yeah, let's dive into Para. As you already mentioned, it's our My Life concept. And when we think about it, My Life is just a small part of ICOR. It's, and that's it. And there we have Para. So that shows just how vast ICOR is. And maybe people would say it's overkill, but it's necessary. We really minimized it to the essential parts that you need to understand how to build a productivity system end to end. The bare minimum, the simplest way you can use it. And yet, it's still just a tiny part of it, the My Life concept. So what is the parallels there between Para and My Life?
Well, the thing is that Para is a way of organizing your digital life, okay, based on 4 different concepts, okay, that it will be projects, areas, resources, and archives, okay? So projects are the projects that you are managing. I'm not going to go into the definition of what represents a project for Para, because that's a problem of Para and not for us, that we have defined perfectly what a project is in ICOR, okay? But let's state that a project is what we have in mind, okay? Something that has an end and a beginning, something that happens in a specific time frame, and that's it, and it gets done, okay? You got areas, okay? Areas, it's like ongoing projects that are constantly running within your life, okay? Resources are the things, okay? The items that you capture from what we call in ICOR the outer world. And archives are the items of any of those elements that you want to archive, okay, that they are not active, okay? Basically, that's it, okay? And then you can start organizing any PKM system using that approach. You can organize your file system following that approach, so that you are able to at least know where to store the things. If you clearly differentiate between projects, areas, and resources, that's something that you need to figure out, okay? And then you can retrieve, because if you understand how you store the things, then you know how to retrieve it, okay? And if we need to find something similar in ICOR, okay, the most similar thing is what we call the My Life concept, okay? In ICOR, to better understand and teach our methodology, we have followed what we call the 3-layer approach, and this is based on explaining the things using 3 different layers, okay? The first one is concepts, okay? We explain the definition, okay? The specific definition of something, for instance, what is a project, what is a priority, what is whatever concept that we want to define, that's in the layer of concepts, the first layer. The second layer is related to workflows, okay? It's how we put into action those concepts, okay? Concepts are static, okay? And workflows are the processes that we follow to put that concept into action. And the third layer is implementation. That is, we use a tool, normally a tool that it's in our tool stack, okay, to better explain the concepts and workflows in a software tool, okay, so that you can better understand the concepts and workflows that we have explained. So, well, going to the PKM area, okay, because in ICOR we have 4 different areas. PKM, we will go later on. PKM, PPM, BPM, and BKM, okay. PKM, right now, it's personal knowledge management, how a person, an individual, manages his or her personal knowledge management, all the information, okay. So we structure that with a concept that we call my life, okay, my life, and we define different areas inside that concept. It's what we call projects, key elements, and topics, okay? This is when people think that this is pretty similar to project areas, resources, and archives, but it has nothing to do, okay? It has nothing to do because the my life concept has nothing to do with para, okay? The my life concept is what we call an attention model, okay? Attention mental model or attention workflow, okay? It was delivered not only to organize your life or digital life, but your overall life. And this goes to the concept that we will explain later on. That is the difference between the second brain and the one brain with 2 parts that we use in ICOR, because again, it has nothing to do, okay? It has the word brain there, but that's the only similarity, okay? And we will, because you will see that in a methodology is really crucial, the approach, okay? How the methodology approach, in this case, the world of productivity, okay? And ICOR is based on the systems theory, and para has nothing to do with the systems theory. It comes from a totally different approach that is not the systems theory. So the moment that an approach is different, trying to compare two methodologies is really difficult and it has no sense, okay? So going back to the My Life, okay? The My Life is the backbone of how we think that any busy professional needs to structure his life, okay? It gives you boundaries, okay? Limitations, so that you see the world from a different perspective, okay? It's not everything free. You got restrictions, so that for you is much easier to understand the world, okay? And the thing is that how we put the concept of my life in action is through the capturing beast, okay? The capturing beast is a process, it's a workflow that you need to follow, okay? That lives, and it's sustained by the concept of my life, okay? And it's how you capture the things, because the moment that we define these 3 main pillars, okay, that we call projects, key elements, and topics, you approach the world of productivity and the world itself from a different perspective and approach, okay? Projects, it's what we define as limited items that deliver something that it's tangible, that it's pretty easy to define for you, okay? So, for instance, in our case, when we deliver our book, that was a project. It got a start date, an end date, and there were tasks and information inside of it, okay? As you can see, I'm mentioning task, action items. That's something that para doesn't pay attention to. Para doesn't care about the world of action, okay? Task management, how you manage to do, how you organize your day. That is not part of the approach of para, okay? Then key elements is the second pillar in my life. Key elements are the main elements in your life, okay? Those areas, those subjects that are really crucial for you. For instance, your business, your partner, your children, your finances, your administration department, whatever you know that you need to pay attention to, because if that fails, you got a big problem in your life, okay? And finally, we got the topics, okay? The topics are those subjects, okay, that you are interested in, but they are not so crucial between the key elements. And you will say, well, then how do I differentiate between key elements and topic? Well, that depends on you, okay, how crucial it is. For me, for instance, I love, I don't know, marketing, okay, but marketing is not a key element for me, okay? This is a topic that I interested in, but that's it. And depending on how that topic evolves, maybe you can move it to a key element, okay,
and here
depending
we
on
have
the
to
evolution.
clarify because one of your companies is a marketing company, right? So how can the topic marketing not be a key element for you?
When I talk about, I think about a key element, and this is quite personal, the moment that you really interiorize this My Life concept, because we give the guidelines, but you need to make little subtle changes so that you better approach the concepts and workflows that we explain, okay? But in my case, a key element is something that it has clear defined boundaries, okay? For me, marketing, it's something that is so huge that I cannot put boundaries into that, but I can put boundaries to my personal finances, for instance. What are my goals with that? It's something that it's really important, whereas for me, I'm constantly living marketing, okay? Because I'm running a marketing agency. So I'm just by default, okay? Because one of my key elements is my agency, that it's my one of my companies, okay? So that includes the world of marketing, but that doesn't mean that whenever I see something related to marketing, I like to have what we call buckets, okay? That I store the information, any thought, any general concept that I've concluded, I like to have that area of marketing to put it there. You have to take into account that you can have endless topics, but when we talk about key elements, we need to reduce the amount of them. I think, I'm not sure, but I think that I have between 10, 12 key elements in my life. Those are the things that really resonates to me, okay? The things that when I have, because these restrictions are quite useful, because one of the main different things between my life and para is that para is a way of organizing, but it's not an attention model, okay? My life goes one step before, okay, defining where you store the things. That is, what are the things that I should pay attention to, okay? It goes against the information overload, okay, because that's a crucial problem for most of the busy professionals. We are bombarded with a lot of information, and we need to have a mental model, a workflow that we can bet on so that we perfectly know what we should being paying attention to. And that's something that the My Life, thanks to the capturing biz, okay, gives to any busy professional, okay, that I know that I need to pay much more attention to my marketing agency as a whole than the topic of marketing, okay? And that's how you start, creating that attention model in your deepest inner self, because that's what this is all about, okay? And this is one of the things that we will come right now, that it's a different approach between second brain and one brain with two parts, okay? And I don't want to go further, okay, because we will talk in a minute, and it's important to start closing, okay, and wrapping up this para versus my life, because I think that the most important thing is that the My Life concept is just a specific and a small area inside the world of ICOR, okay? And also it differs from para in that it's not a way of organizing your information, but also how you approach your life, okay? The things that you should be paying attention to and creating that prioritization so that you are fully focused, first of all, in your projects, okay? Because they got a limited time frame, whereas the key elements are always things that are active unless you decide that it's never a key element. That could be, for instance, for me, it's not the case. No, I have to think about, but imagine that I started trying to learn French, okay? And for me, there was a moment in my life that was so crucial that I wanted to pay even more attention. I move it to a key element. But the moment that I say, well, more or less I have the level of French knowledge that I want, well, it becomes again a topic. I gain clarity, okay, and I bring any other new key element to my life. So we can see that thanks to this dynamism, we got something that perfectly reflects what we are thinking, okay, because that's what ICOR is all about on system theory, okay. We have one and just one system that is combined by a biological brain and a digital brain, but it's not something that it's splitted, that is like an extension, okay? That's what a second brain is. It's like a digital extension that enhances your biological brain. And that's not the approach of ICOR, okay?
Yeah.
ICOR sees everything from a bigger perspective, okay? Understanding that you got just one system and you need to define the exact same concepts, the exact same workflows, and it's just the implementation that differs, okay? In the biological brain, we got neurons connecting. In the other one, we got software tools. But the approach is exactly the same, and that creates a reduction of friction that it's amazing, okay?
Yeah. And the thing is, with Para and the My Life, it ends in the organization part, and what's then lacking is really how to take action on these things. So even that projects are mentioned, and even that we have also projects in there, it has nothing to do with project management. It is just information. It is information related to these projects, but there is neither in Para nor in My Life concept explained how to manage projects, because it's not a place to manage your projects and to plan out the things, the tasks, how to approach this and so on. And that's where it goes beyond, where we then always look for ways, where we teach you in ICOR how to transform the information into action or leverage information where you need to carry out action. And we have a similar situation with code to, I think you finished with Para, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can move on to code, because code is something, when I came up with the term ICOR, I don't know how many years it's already ago, 5 years ago, I was aware of code and it's capture, organize, distill, express. And you see already in these 4 steps, there's no action. Even that there is the part express, it's still just knowledge that is shared with other people. And me working in big corporate, I always thought about, how do I now manage all my tasks, and how do I know what has the highest priority? And that's where ICOR, which stands for input, control, output, refine, people think it is similar, because there's also output like the express, and then refine might be the distill, and people start making up their own things. But it's a complete different thing. I always said back then already, and it was not set in stone like we have it now with our book and everything laid out. Input and control might cover code. Well, it goes also beyond code. So let's dive into this. All right. So that was just a key, that even in code, we don't have the action part yet. And we really need to differentiate here. And that's where I said initially in the beginning, it's really for who it fits the best. And we recognized that many professionals, well, the people who join the Paperless Movement membership and go through ICOR, share with us, this is the lacking part for professionals, for busy professionals, is the action part. As Mark says in the chat, for example, here, I found Para and code useful to a point, but it fell short on managing the execution side. It lacked structure for me. And that's where we dive into code now, Paco.
Yeah, and the thing is that we need to understand that code and Para was developed mainly for knowledge workers, okay? And the thing is that busy professionals are in part, partially knowledge workers, but they go far beyond, okay? Because the moment that I come up with an idea, that can be an idea, information, or that could be an idea in action, okay? Something that I need to do. And that's the moment that everything collapses, okay? Because we are constantly combining information and action, that those are two worlds that, well, not so many people define as clear as ICOR, okay? That we decide one of our claims is ICOR, where information meets action, okay? Because that's what ICOR does, that it's combining those main worlds in the world of productivity and create something that works all together, okay? This is the best combination possible between working with my biological brain and my digital brain simultaneously because they are just one brain. Okay, I don't care if it's biological or digital. That doesn't matter. I go one step beyond or above, okay, to have that overall vision of what productivity is and how a system works, okay? Because the point is that the second brain approach understands that there's one system that is the biological and then another one that it's digital, okay? And they try to connect both. And that's a different approach. I'm not saying that that's worse than ICOR. I say that it's a different one, okay? Because for us, there's just one system, okay? That has two different parts, okay? That we need to understand, okay? But they work with the same concepts and workflows. And that creates the difference, okay? Because the moment that we combine that with approaching both worlds of productivity, that is action management, that is project management, and task management, okay, and time management, okay, and we also combine the information, the world of information, but not only related to the individual information, that's the main information, or I would say the only one that para works, okay? Because talking about business knowledge, okay, team knowledge, information, that's something that goes beyond how I manage my information. I need to create a standard with Mr. Solid to communicate both together because we are so different that if we check out each of our personal knowledge management system, we will see that they are completely different. So the moment that we move to business knowledge management, that is how a team manages information, how the members of a team communicate one to each other, those are things that para and code don't care about because it's a scope, okay? It's totally different. And that's why we understand that we wanted to cover all the different areas that a VC professional is in every single day, okay, and in real time. That's why we needed to create something that makes sense, okay, that it doesn't matter about what I think or that I can perfectly store and retrieve it and organize and prioritize and schedule my agenda and schedule my meetings. All that is what we call a productivity system end-to-end, and that's the approach of ICOR, okay? Because we also have to think that productivity has additional approaches if we see productivity from a different perspective. We got the personal approach, okay? That's how me as an individual approach productivity, so how I myself become productive. There's another approach that is the team approach. How do I make a team that can collaborate and be productive, all the members together? That's a different approach to productivity. And last but not least, there's another approach to productivity that is the organizational approach. That is how a whole organization is productive. And this is something that you go into the world of analyzing workflows, how different teams collaborate one to each other. All those things, it's totally out of scope for code and para. That's why it's impossible to compare because all those elements, all these different areas, all these different approaches is something that is covered by ICOR because we wanted to deliver a solution that works for busy professionals, okay? And busy professional needs to perfectly manage action and information at the same level. You cannot prioritize information over action and vice versa. And also, it's important also how you combine the information that is associated, linked to an action. These combinations, okay, is the moment, or how do you handle when you conclude certain or specific actions based on an information that you are distilling? What do you do with that? How do you manage those actions that come out of a deep thinking process where you have concluded that some actions needs to be done? All those things is what ICOR manages perfectly, okay? In an easy way, with a structure layer approach, and also with different stages, okay? Using not only the input, control, output, refine, but also the different areas in one of our main tools, that is the ICOR framework, where we specifically split and combine all these 4 different areas, okay? Personal knowledge management, personal project management, that is task management, business project management, that is project management, okay, the actions of a team, and finally, business knowledge management, how a team manages all the information and the communication. And that's, in my opinion, the perfect approach for BC professional because it covers everything. There's no scenario, no situation that any BC professional can face that cannot be handled by ICOR.
Yeah. And the thing is that, we didn't come up out of nowhere with this solution. It was after testing all these methodologies in our real life. And another example is also, I mentioned it before, GTD, getting things done. It is very specific on personal task management. And I never made it work that it works together with the project. Hundreds of projects I was involved in this big corporate to manage all this. So there was always the urge to have something that looks at this from a holistic point of view. And just getting back to code here, we might be able to sum things up like that code is linear and focused on PKM and creative output, which refers also to the knowledge workers and the individual working on something related to information and the distilling and all these wordings that are coming up there. And ICOR is a holistic approach that integrates information management, task and time management. So we talk about digital note-taking, personal knowledge management, personal task management, right? Where we are in the individual part, but always leading into the understanding of how everything fits into the big picture of working in a business and working together with a team. That goes then into team collaboration or a team communication system, idea incubator, which is also how do we handle the ideas coming from a team, business operations, and then eventually also looking into the automation refinement where we talk about workflow, business workflows and things like that that go way beyond. That makes everything even more efficient. But you can only make things more efficient once you get the point of the big picture, the holistic view of everything. And if I use always these quick fixes that I find on YouTube or methodologies that are too narrow on my scope that I'm working in, it will never work because you keep fixing things that are then disconnected from the rest. And then you get confused again and you try to make it work. You duplicate information or duplicate action and things like that. That's why it's impossible to use a methodology once your scope goes beyond being an individual or volume is big, that is too narrow in a specific use case.
No, the thing is that I was thinking while you were talking about how I could combine, imagine trying to combine for the personal information area, para and code, okay? Then using GTD to manage your personal task and then combining them with, I don't know, agile for project management or whatever, that you are approaching productivity from such different approaches. And the moment that you move into the implementation, the moment that you need to look for tools to implement all those things is the moment that everything is really difficult, and that's why we find people suffering, trying to combine everything, because you need an holistic approach that combines everything end to end, and then it's the moment that you really understand the situation that you are facing, okay? It's what we call a different approach to productivity, because now you understand how to tackle these things, and then it's much easier, and because it's just a piece of cake implementation, okay? This is the moment that you stop tool switching, the moment that you start just taking the strength of each of the different tools, the moment that you start using tools just for the main purpose they were built in, and everything makes sense. And to wrap things up, you think everything, okay, without differentiating between digital and biological. I think that that's crucial, because that's where the friction starts, okay? The moment that you think using your biological brain, okay, completely different of how you are using your digital brain, because it's really difficult to create that connection, is the moment that friction starts. And also because the world doesn't stop, okay? You need to create this approach on the fly, okay, while you are fighting with information overload with a lot of actions, change of priorities constantly, unexpected events, your calendars, your meeting notes, you don't know where to store, you don't know what to retrieve. Well, everything is chaotic, because to implement that, you should stop the world, okay? Be fully focused for, I don't know, months, and then start to implement. And that's not how these things needs to be implemented, okay? ICOR is something that you can implement on the go, and that's what we do, okay? For instance, in our Inner Circle program, that is our direct coaching program, is we take just 5 weeks, okay, where we explain the main things, okay, the sequential way to better understand ICOR, and people week by week are implementing this on the go, okay? And at the end, they end up with that solid foundational core from where they keep building things up, okay? Because productivity is something that never ends. It's something that it has no end. It's infinite, but you are constantly growing because you are always in the right direction, okay? And I think that that's something that it's important, and a difference between ICOR and the other methodologies, that is that we are always pointing towards a direction that makes sense for the person, okay? That it's something that they understand, so that they can perfectly manage the millions of subtleties and nuances that the world of productivity has. And I think that that's the main thing also, no? It's that big direction, okay, understanding of the goal, of the scope, and the limitations that allows you to breathe, okay, that at the end, that's something that we want our people to do, okay, breathe calmly, implement the productivity system without any problem, using their current tools, okay, because they start using their tool stack correctly, because that's something that usually happens, okay. The people complain about the tools, and it's because there isn't a system behind. The moment that you got a system behind, the tool doesn't matter, okay? And if the tool is a problem, you will perfectly and quickly change and move to the right one within days, okay? Not week, not month.
Exactly. Absolutely. Everybody, hopefully this was a good discussion and gives you more insights about the differences. However, Paco also published a very comprehensive article about this, to dive into this on our website or inside our membership. We shared this already. So feel free to dive into this, and we catch you up next week with another episode. See you then.
See you guys. Thank you so much.